Hi, Angelika. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon. I'm so glad to see you and join you today.
Thank you again for your precious time and welcome. We would love to, without further ado, we would love to start with your background and your all activities in the tech ecosystem that you're doing in Poland and also around the world. But let's just get started with an introduction from you and how are you involved in this sector?
Thank you so much. So first of all, in my life, I divide two roles. I'm a businesswoman, but as well, I'm concentrated on humanitarian work and humanitarian activities and philanthropist work, which is so important for me as well. It was also important when I was choosing the right projects or the right ideas which I supported in the past and which I support right now. With my team, I developed program Poland 3.0 almost 7 years ago. It's first and very crucial program, key program for Poland, I can say, if it comes to cluster cooperation. Clusters which are so famous in United States. Everyone knows Silicon Valley, or everyone knows Hollywood, or London City of Finance. But in Europe, we are still learning how to build cluster and how to cooperate with them. So for me, it was important to build effective organization, and we done it by our team indeed, because we learned from the best people, and we learn good practices from the professors who created the idea of clusters. That's how it started. So we were working with the professors from Barcelona, very famous surnames. I was also so privileged to be there and to study clusters initiatives there as well. And when we concentrated on building clusters, we are never concentrated on the idea on itself, but we always used the right ideas or the right projects, the people who were with their projects on an early stage, but not only, and they wanted to build something very innovative, but still our market is quite young, and we are still learning to build innovations, not only in Poland, in Europe. So clusters was a great idea for that. One of the clusters which I'm very proud of is a umbrella cluster organization, National Cluster of Innovative Enterprises, which consists of many clusters and many projects from different fields, but they are all connected because they have one main idea. They're all connected with sustainable development goals. I can say this way, because they are connected on this innovation sector about environment, water resources, energy, also space as well. But the projects which consist in this cluster, they are all built from the early stage innovations which came to our organization. So a lot of people had great ideas. They were looking for partners from universities or international organizations or other companies which are also developing innovations. But it was very hard for them to implement this innovation on the market. So we supported their ideas, sometimes ideas which were very hard to implement into the market. Especially what I have in my mind is a project of the utilization of the chemical weapon from the Baltic Sea. Not everyone knows that there is a 50,000 tons of a chemical weapon in the Baltic Sea from the First and the Second World War. Chemical weapon is a great problem which we have to face in 21st century, because those weapons are in the sea for almost more than 100 years right now. So it means that it's a great danger for all the environment, all the ecosystem. And I was supporting this initiative and this project to implement it, to build the system which will be able to deal with this problem. But as well, I had conversation with the world leaders. That is also part of my mission, my work, that I highlight the problems which are so important, but not widely known, and usually people don't understand why it's so important to do this or to do that. I had the privilege to present this project to Secretary General of United Nations, that was Ban Ki-moon. It was a few years ago, and in Brussels. And after that, I also presented this project, this idea, this technology to other members of United Nations responsible for this sector. And we built this project, which is right now implemented. And I hope that will be a solution not only for the Baltic Sea, but other seas as well, where the problem is exactly the same. Other project, which is so important for me and is still continued right now by my team, is a project for water restoration, river restorations in Poland, but water as well, because the water resources are always connected with inland waterways. That is a part of the Princess Initiative project, so widely known right now in Europe. But when we started to build this project, it was not known by anyone, only from the historical point of view. Now, of course, the point of view is different, because we are concentrated on cooperation between countries and not to isolate any country from other countries. The Princess Initiative between 12 countries, it's not about isolation, it's about building common projects, infrastructural projects, so water resources, so non-waterways, highways, logistics centers, transport and logistic, energy, but also exchange of innovation, technology, knowledge, because those countries need to cooperate more intensively. And of course, the cooperation, this road of cooperation is not so well developed like East and West. The development was always on East and West between, and we are concentrated right now on North and South. So I was preparing my final work for my studies, and I wrote all this initiative, how it should work, how it should operate. I built it on our program Poland 3.0, and from this work, the Princess Initiative, which we know right now, was developed. I presented this project, this initiative, and this implementation. So not only idea, but also how it should work, how we can particularly implement it on the Princess Initiative, where 12 presidents had their presentation where they signed cooperation on the Princess Initiative. After this official part with presidents, I had my presentation about our program, Poland 3.0, about Princess Initiative, how it can be implemented from this innovation side, from this entrepreneur side. It's so extremely important. And we also developed several projects connected with water resources, water connections, river connections. Now it seems that it's extremely important project, because when I started to work on this particular project with my team, we couldn't find any information, even on the internet, even in the news articles about water resources and inland waterways. Now everyone understands that there is a great problem with water and water resources around the world, and the problem will be worse and worse. So from this entrepreneur side, I was always concentrated on the projects which are changing the life for better. It was so important for me I was developing as advisor the company and the startup Migam, which develops solutions to deaf people. It's a first application which is now implemented to all the banks, all the international organizations, even in Uber in Warsaw. You can see the deaf drivers. They don't hear, but they are great drivers. They can finally work because the application led them to work and live normally. They can go to the bank, they can understand, and they can communicate with others who hear. And this project received a special award from Princess, the Duchess Kate, the Duchess of Cambridge, and the Duke of Prince William. So it was very special for us, very important, especially in these days right now when we are all saddened by the information from Great Britain. It's so important to highlight these connections which we had, and I had privilege to have in the past. Because when we received this special award from the Duchess, she used the application, and it was so fantastic. She showed how it works. And of course, other project which I will mention later was the 303 Squadron movie. We also had the privilege to visit the royal family in Great Britain. So it's fantastic and so beautiful that Polish initiatives, our initiatives, were appreciated by the royal family. And especially in these days, we are with them.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, all these great global initiatives and the impactful projects that you're doing. And I would love to know that how the COVID situation has impacted your work, and how are you dealing with that? I mean, before we get to the next topic.
So first of all, I'm now mostly concentrated on two different things. First of all, on the humanitarian work, which now is my priority, and I will tell about this later. And the second thing is that I'm developing my fashion brand. I was working on a fashion brand from the last 3 years, and it's connected with aviation and also military style, but as well royal style. So that's why the name is Royal Military. And this project was also described in Forbes magazine. Soon it will be released. Of course, now we dream more about international travels than we did in the past. So I believe that despite of all the problems, this project is even more interesting nowadays because we dream about this. So it's some kind of a dream to be able to be free, to be able to travel normally. That was always my passion. Aviation is so important for me, also because of this feeling of freedom, which is connected with aviation. And my fashion brand will be also inspired by 303 Squadron, so the Polish squadrons who fought in the Battle of Britain, and a movie which is my child, as I always say, so 303 Squadron. But the second thing is my work, my humanitarian work, which doesn't change due to the COVID. I didn't change my plans, even a small percent. So I have a very busy schedule connected with my travels due to humanitarian work. Of course, we all work more online, but my team, what is the power of our actions, or the program Poland 3.0 was also power of our team. It doesn't change. So even if I'm traveling due to humanitarian work, or I'm in the opposite side of the globe, somewhere in Cambodia or Burma or Vietnam, and I'm not able to to connect with them regularly, the power of our team is power of very, very accomplished people. I think that's our greater achievement, the greatest achievement, that I have a team of very, very accomplished people They work with international organizations. They worked as a head of the banks, or they were supporting as advisors European Commission, or they are great experts in their field, for example. And that is our power, that we can always connect people, connect their ideas, make brainstorming. And that's what creates these miracles and these great projects. So it's you cannot learn everything, or you cannot be expert on every field. It's even a bad idea to think about it. The perfect thing and the greatest thing you can do as a leader is to connect the right people around you, the people who have a great knowledge on their field. They have passion for what they are doing, and then you can always build this added value, because when you connect such a people together, you gave them this purpose, they are building incredible things. That's how the program was built. That's how National Cluster of Innovative Enterprises was built. That's how all the initiatives which I took part in were built by very special people. So I think that it's one of my greatest achievements, which I'm mostly proud of, are the people who are always with me, no matter what. They are a part of my team, and we can always do something special. So I don't think that it affected us very much. Of course, traveling is more hard nowadays. But even now, I'm planning to travel to South Sudan due to the humanitarian work and this terrible situation which is there at the moment. And I plan it normally, so it takes more time. It's more complicated. We need to be in mask all the time, but I believe that everything can be done. And if it comes to the fashion brand, of course, it determined that it will be more online than I planned. But it's also very good for me, because my people live in different part of the world, my friends and my partners in initiatives, in projects, especially in humanitarian work. But as we live in global village, and we understand it perfectly nowadays, I think that we should always be open for those who are in a different part of the world. So from my point of view, I don't see any difference. The only thing which concerns me is the international situation and how COVID affects people who live in the places contaminated with landmines. That is the great problem, which I think that needs more time and should be discussed. Because nowadays people don't travel like usual, which means that they don't travel to the places where people live in a fear of being killed or injured by landmines. And because of that, they don't have external finance. They don't have funds which they usually received from the people who are coming, who are visiting the cities, who are visiting the museums, like Landmine Museum. Now they need to rely on the support from other countries. It complicated everything a lot, but that's why for me, even more important it is to concentrate on the anti-landmine campaign nowadays, because I understand how it's important, extremely important, to involve international community. Without such an involvement on the people of the people abroad, it will be not possible to support the people who are living in Cambodia. For example, Cambodia is extremely important for me.
Well, look, that's amazing that at least during this time you're also reaching out to the most vulnerable population of the world, which is South Africa, as you mentioned, in South Sudan, and as you mentioned, also it is a critical time for the culture and history, and how during this time now we also need to focus on that particular subject too, for those that are not traveling and not learning, for example, in about specific information of the regions, or like, I mean, before that, tourists could go to any country and learn about, and then it was also not just provide an economic value for the country of the host, but also would create a lot of business opportunities or education opportunities or cultural opportunities. And now with the limited opportunities and limited and restriction on the travel and the travel bans that are actually happening in different countries. And I think it is very critical that we also focus on that. And thanks that you're doing that and using your social media for that. And it is. I really like what you do, and I also want to know, like, as a female leader, both in business and a humanitarian world, how are you also inspiring and educating the women, the young, and the youth that you meet during your visits, and also the people of Poland? How do you do that? And I believe you were also Forbes 30 under 30. Was that 2018 or 19?
Yes, yes, certainly. I think that it's also so important that we have this Forbes community. I was also able, and it was important for me, I was also able, due to Forbes, and I'm grateful for that, to communicate and appeal to international Forbes community, to this elite which was chosen by Forbes, about the main global problems. It's so important because I remember that when we met on the Forbes summit, I was appealing about global anti-Landmine campaign, about humanitarian work. And I was so glad to see that in Slovenia, on that meeting, when I saw so many wonderful leaders, I saw that there is also a need to create some group for humanitarian work. And I highlighted this idea, and we created a group, even on WhatsApp and other social media and communicators, a group where we now exchange the ideas about humanitarian work. There are people from all over the world there, and there is more and more people every day who join us. And from that, I see already that there is a very good impact, because some of those people really seek for some opportunity for humanitarian work as well. So they were accomplished in business, were so satisfied with their work. They achieved a lot in such a young age, but they were also looking for opportunities to support important initiatives, and they just needed some small kick, some small support to join this. But and Forbes is of course fantastic for this, and I'm very glad that now I'm part of this global Forbes family, because we are together, we are supporting each other, we are connected, so it really works. And I believe that we always need to think in a long-term perspective, how it will impact the world. And I see already, but I think that it's much more to come, that we will impact the world together. These people who were connected by Forbes created for us this opportunity, this platform. We spent so much time together, so closely during these closed meetings, and it works very well. And I'm truly looking forward that we'll be able to meet very soon. The pandemic changes everything, but I hope that it will happen soon. You asked me how to inspire, how to impact. So in the last weeks, it's 2 weeks since it was finished, I took part in the meetings of the Commission of the Status of Women in United Nations. Normally, we would meet as representatives of Ukrainian women in UN and NGOs. I'm from Poland, but I was only one person from Poland in this team. Normally, we would be in United Nations headquarters in New York, and as it was in the last years. But this year, due to the COVID, we only met online. But anyway, it was very fascinating, because we took part in different conversations, and we were trying to solve the problems. We had meetings with representatives of the Commission of the Status of Women. We had meeting with US Air Force representatives, leaders, the head. So it was very, very special. And it all happened during the COVID-19. So, of course, many conversations were determined by this problem. And I was particularly concentrated as a head of a group concentrated on women alliances. I was concentrated on the topic how women leaders can create effective alliances and can support women from developing countries. It was always so important for me how we can do this. In the past, my organization organized also a project about cooperation between Poland and Ukraine, Polish and Ukrainian women leaders. Women from Ukraine came to Poland. We worked together. We had workshops. We had conversations. We had to develop projects together. I was so glad, so proud that this project was noticed and it was presented in the U.S. Department in the United States as one of the projects which were so effective and had good impact for women. And now when I'm traveling to other countries, I also work with women leaders there as well. For example, when I will be in Sudan, I will meet with two women, fantastic women leaders, ministers. They are women leaders in their country, and they are so extremely dedicated to humanitarian work, to supporting orphanages. We will visit the place where there is 900 orphanages, the children who were affected by the war. Now they don't have parents, they are sleeping on the ground. There is a raining season. There's always problem with food, with water. It's extreme. I have to show the pictures to make anyone realize the scale of the problem. When you see 900 children gathered together in a small area without water, without food, without vaccine, everything must be organized and you need to do it regularly. And the children need to have a place to sleep. We'll also visit the places by landmines, and I will meet with the mining teams. There is a place where they want to build a special medical center. So it's fascinating at the same time that such a hard places have such a strong women. And for me, it's extremely important that I'm working with women on those projects, that they believe in me and I believe in them. And in all those countries which I visited or where I lived to help, I met such a people. I was planning to be just 1 month in Cambodia. I spent there 8 months. I didn't came back after 1 month. I just stayed 8 months there. Because of the anti-landmine campaign, because of what I saw there. When I started to visit places where I started to understand the scale of the problem, when I started to understand that children are the main victims of landmines and of course civilians. It's about a war which was many years before they were born, and now they are maimed or killed by landmines. I visited many children maimed by landmines. Now I have a great privilege to be a patron of Cambodia Landmine Museum, Cambodian Self-Help Mining and Landmine Relief Fund, Canadian fund. And it's a great privilege for me and proof of their trust. And I know how important it is right now to support them and to do everything what can be done to help them. And I will just, in short words, tell you the story about this, because the man who created this place, who I have a privilege to work with, is a man who was taken during the Khmer Rouge to be a children's soldier. He was a child when he was taken away, taken to the forest, and he was forced to fight. He was forced to put landmines. He was among other children who started to be soldiers. It's a great trauma. It's terrible for children to be alone, to be forced to do such a thing by Red Khmers. And after many years, he was able, as he told me, to make a first decision in his life. And his first independent decision was to dedicate his life to clear Cambodia from landmines. He's risking his life every day. He's going to the minefields and is running the mining and teaching other people how to demine Cambodia, how to demine land. It's extremely risky, and what he did is unbelievable. The Cambodian Landmine Museum is created because he collected so many landmines that finally he had to do something with it. So they created museum, which now when you visit the museum, all the donation goes to the Cambodian self-help demining. And he was also trained by United Nations, and he received, of course, he didn't knew about this first, so he was surprised. He received a special award, and it's also very fantastic, very emotional, because you can see on the scene Renée Zellweger, great star. She's coming in the middle of the scene and starting to tell about this man. This man who is coming from Cambodia is not speaking English very well. He's a very, very, very modest person, very modest and very good. And she's starting to cry. And then she says that she will come on the stage, Akira. It's the man. And he's coming on the scene and telling that all his dream is to clear Cambodia for the next generations. He met many children on the streets of the capital of Cambodia, in Phnom Penh. And those children, maimed by landmines, were lost. They were forgotten by their families because they were not able to work. And of course, when the families were in a hard situation, they just left them on the streets. He took all those children to his small, modest home in the village. And with his wife, they created a real home for those children. They educated the children. Bill Morris, who I also work with, who's living there, he came from USA. He had beautiful life and so many success in his life. And his wife, when he came to Cambodia, when he saw the problems, he just decided to live in Cambodia. He built a landmine relief fund, which is donating the mining. And his wife is teaching children English. It's an education, it's a door for development for the country. And
that's amazing. Well, and I'm sure that the story of all these orphans in the next perhaps 10 years from now, each of them would have a fascinating life story, sharing and impacting the world in a way that they are able to, with all the help that you are providing, and as a foreigner and the people that are on the ground there. And it's quite actually impactful and inspiring.
You asked me about women. So the woman who supported me in Cambodia is Sister Denise. She was one of the initiators of this campaign. She taught Princess Diana, and in her team she received a Peace Nobel Prize. It's a great honor for me that I can continue the work of Princess Diana as a peace ambassador and to follow her footsteps. I didn't know when I was coming to Cambodia, I didn't know that Princess Diana had a plan to go to Cambodia just a month after she died. So in a month, she was planning to go there and she was planning to run this campaign. She was not able. She died in an accident, but it's fascinating how the history goes, and I feel a great responsibility to be a part of this story. In Egypt, I have people as well who I'm supporting. They are supporting children and families living in a very, very bad conditions. We regularly support them. I plan to visit them soon as well. And I was the first foreigner who came to this part of Egypt. So the children were so so emotional and so nice to me, because I was quite exotic for them for the first. But I was so touched by their affection and love and how they treated me. So we also prepared packages for them for Christmas time. I visited them just before Christmas, and all the children received books and other tools for education, but also some things to play and to spend this Christmas time beautifully. Families received food and other things. So I have different places in the world which I feel and I obliged to support, and I have this in my heart, and I treat it like a part of the family, no matter where I am. So it's a fantastic feeling that you haven't. I sometimes feel like I have no nationality, or there's no religion, there's no skin color. For me, it's so important to communicate that we are all equal, that we are all together. I love the history of my country, but for me to be as a part of our global family is so important. That's why I also prepare educational project. I prepare books for children about global peace, about the value of global peace, about respect for other cultures, religions, about sustainable development goals. And I will show the histories of the people which I mentioned to you, because those people deserve to be showed, because they are quiet heroes. No one talk about them. I support veterans from many years. It's another story. Support veterans and their families. It's also untold story. Those are also untold stories which should be told. And I believe that can be a great inspiration for young generations, especially that children are now, I think, that are the greatest victims of this COVID situation. They feel so much pressure. They are staying at homes. They don't have contact with other children. They don't go to school. And sometimes it's very hard for parents to be with them all the time. So this book is a very important project for me. They will be also translated to many languages, and I will also give them to many places around the world, everywhere where I will travel in coming months. And you told about the stories of the victims of landmines. It's also very important because soon I will travel to United States, to Los Angeles. And the team of the people from Los Angeles contacted me because they are also very close and very dedicated to humanitarian work. And they will prepare a documentary movie about my humanitarian work, about global anti-landmine campaign, and the main person in this document will be children who were maimed by landmines, and their stories, untold stories, life which is continuing with this burden of landmines. And we need to realize that it's not only about the mining, what happened in the past, it's about what happens right now. Every day, there are new landmines in many places around the world, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, and that will be a great problem, and I think that one of the greatest challenges of our generation right now. And of course, for me, it's important as well to communicate with global leaders. I'm never afraid to say no to the actions against human rights and war actions, which are so important for you as well. I think to be brave and to be not afraid to say about things which are happening around the world, it's so important nowadays. And I am the advocate of those actions, and I'm never afraid to say that such bad things are happening in different places around the world, that there are violations against human rights. I'm very concentrated on that, and I communicate directly about those problems, because I think that we need more social civil advocates about what's happening around the world, because normally main media are not telling a lot about those things.
Well, definitely looking forward the book about the untold stories, and also the documentary for sure. And thanks for all the humanitarian work that you do. You also mentioned that aviation is a personal kind of like passion for you, and you also are launching your fashion line. It would be great if you can also shortly explain about that, and also how it's being kind of like expanded in that regard.
So it will be a premium fashion brand. The website and everything will be released very soon. Now we are preparing a video, very fascinating because we are using acrobatic planes in the video. So and there will be also a very it's for women and for men as well, but there will be a very strong women role in this video, but also in the brand. It's very important for me to communicate and to show the women who are living by their passions, are not afraid, are strong. So in this movie, you will see the women in the leading role. That's what I can say right now. And in this brand, there are two faces of this brand, as the women have two faces. There is a royal and military part. The royal part will be connected with equestrian, for example, but there will be very elegant suits and blouses and other things which are connected with royal style, with some kind of a mix between centuries and ages. So inspiration from the past, but in a modern way. And I never follow anyone, so it will be quite interesting because it's something absolutely new. And from the opposite side, there's a military part. Military part will be connected mostly with aviation, but not only. First collection is dedicated mostly to the time of the Battle of Britain. So we are today in our conversation all the time somewhere between the royal part of the Great Britain and this military part, and here it's the same as well. So in the military part, first collection will be concentrated and mostly connected with the 303 Squadron, with the Battle of Britain, with a time, fascinating time, about the squadrons who were fighting for the freedom of Europe. Of course, they were all extremely brave, and the 303 Squadron was untold history until the time 2 years ago when we released a movie which is now on Netflix, the 303 Squadron, about the Polish pilots who were extremely fascinating people. They were young, they were brave. They were absolutely dedicated. They were not afraid of anything. And they changed the history of the Battle of Britain. So it means also the history of the World War II, World War II. So first of all, I will be concentrated on this history because with the squadrons, fascinating history as well. When I was working on this movie, first, all the environments connected with this history were not connected. So the families of the pilots, the last living pilots, the young generation of pilots nowadays, and the museums and the institutes, they were all not connected, and not platform where they could join their forces for this history, for communication of the history. I had this privilege to make the interviews with the last pilots from the Battle of Britain. I connected with the people who were part of this history, or they are new generations, the children or grandchildren of people who were victims of the history. And we created a movie which was a great success. I was very glad that we were able to visit and had this great honor to visit royal family. We visited Kensington Palace and had this privilege and honor to present the movie. It was also the first time in history when such a crew, the producer and actors were able to visit and privileged to visit the royal family and present the movie. After that, we also had the presentation and the premiere of the movie in the place where there was a premiere of a Star Wars movie. So it was very special, and since that time, a lot of people started to realize how its history is it's untold, and how it's important, how it changed the history. And now I'm connected and in strong contact with children and grandchildren of the pilots, last living pilots. They are also involved in my initiatives. There will be collections connected and dedicated to their ancestors, their grandparents, the squadron leaders. So it will be both for men and for women, but there will be also inspiration by Top Gun and the modern aviation as well. So not only historical part, but modern part as well. For those who love space, there will be also something. The sky is not the limit, of course. And if it comes,
that's amazing.
and if it comes to yes,
we're entering a new space era with all the advanced technology that is actually happening in this field, with commercial space that actually launching, and the reusable rockets, and we see that there's so much. I mean, with the Perseverance rover, for example, on Mars, and outer space exploration. So it's quite fascinating, and right time, I believe, for even like fashion industry to get into that. And thanks that you're kind of like reminding us that how space is important and bringing that into realization.
Exactly. And if there is something in this brand about past and the future, because these collections are mostly, when you see them, mostly connected with the past, but soon they will be mostly connected with the future. And if it comes to this royal part, there is inspiration of gala uniforms. So these beautiful uniforms, which we often observe on the official ceremonies around the world, but also inspiration by my other children. So the Born for the Soar movie. Born for the Sabar was a movie created by the team of very accomplished people who recreated and reconstructed the war strategic kind of fighting, method of fighting, which was our Polish type of fighting. So we had a special way how we used sabers, how we use swords, and we are absolutely perfect in it. During the Second World War, of course, all the documents were lost, and the knowledge about this disappeared. There were not new generations which could learn this method, and they reconstructed it from the documents from all over the world, even in ancient languages. So it took like 10 years. And now the document is on the history channel, so it was translated to 81 languages. It's a totally fascinating project. Soon there will be a full movie, not only documentary movie. It will be in the cinemas. It's under the preparation right now. So there will be also inspiration by this royal style, which was used in cavalry as well.
Well, definitely looking forward to that project again, too. I mean, aside from all the things that you're doing. So the last part is, what is your message to the young influencers, especially female, out there, in terms of how to follow their dreams and how to create an impact, the same that you are doing. So before we go,
we have to be brave. That's first thing. Not be afraid to say what you really think. It's a great skill nowadays, because I believe that this global situation is making people afraid of what will happen in the future, and we need to be brave. We need to believe that the future will be different. It will never be the same as it was before, but it might be better. It depends on us. We have to be the creators, not only the observators of the reality around us, but we need to believe that we can create. we are the creators. We are the one who are creating how everything looks like around us. That I think is the most important message, that if you feel that you have a power to change your life, but to change other things as you believe, and I believe, it's the first step to create special things, to believe that we are the creators.
Wow,
And
this is very powerful.
we are the change makers. If we want to see the change in the world, we must be that change. That is the first thing.
Exactly, and if you want to see the future, just create it. Create the future, and this is very powerful to end this. And thanks again for your time and for your great work across the world, and especially during this time. And we're definitely looking forward to your book, to the documentary, and to the fashion line that you are going to be launching. So definitely great success to that. And thanks again for your time.
Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure to join you today. Thank you.